A warm welcome to a special episode of Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. I'm Ritwika Gupta. The tension between consumerism and climate crisis is often a tightrope. Despite that, a number of Indian brands in the fashion and lifestyle space are making a mark in sustainability with zero-waste design and small-scale production. But is India really ready for sustainable brands? Take a look. Think green, think sustainable. Call it eco-friendly or green fashion, these are terms that describe products, processes and activities that aim to shift towards a more environmentally conscious mode of production. But why does sustainable fashion matter? To a study by McKinsey, the fashion industry is responsible for 2.1 billion metric tons of carbon emissions every year. Adding to that, only 17% of brands are transparent about their annual carbon footprint. And if no abatement actions are taken, a predicted rise in volumes could push carbon emissions to around 2.7 billion metric tons a year by 2030. From Gucci, Island Fisher, Vivienne Westwood and Tommy Hilfiger, sustainable practices are being adopted by big players globally. And when it comes to India, several smaller businesses and startups, be it clothing, accessories or even kidswear, are also moving towards sustainability. To gain a deeper understanding of the industry in India, on the show today we'll be in conversation with Arundhati Kumar, founder Studio Beej. Thank you so much, Arundhati, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
So let's start from the very beginning. Tell us what was the thought behind Studio Beej and what actually made you pursue this dream of yours?
I actually spent 18 years as an HR person before I started Beej. I've spent, my career in consulting, banking, media. And then in 2019, I just got tired of doing what I was doing and I wanted to do something of my own. Sustainability was an interest area, but not so much fashion. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, my dad's had a leather export house for 5 decades now. So I was always thinking I'm going to work with him. And I like to say this, my business really started over a Google search. Mm-hmm. I remember sitting at a co-working space and Googling alternatives to leather. And suddenly all these materials come up in front of me, materials I didn't know existed, although I kind of grew up with the business. And then I started thinking, why isn't some of this available in India? Right. And there was a business opportunity right there. So that's really how Beej started for me in terms of bringing plant-based next-gen material into the country. And the whole idea behind Beej is to combine Indian craftsmanship with next-gen materials to create something which is very premium and for the world.
So at this point, I actually want to talk about the industry at large. How do you think the market in India, especially for sustainable fashion and lifestyle businesses, how do you think that has evolved over the years?
What has happened with the pandemic is sustainability, that was a very on the fringes conversation, has suddenly become a very mainstream conversation in fashion. So there are brands doing more about it and there are consumers asking for it. Right. But the truth is, I think we still need to do a lot in India to build consumer awareness and get people talking about it. So think of it this way, when someone comes and buys a bag from Beej, they don't come and buy a bag from Beej and then become sustainable. They come to Beej because they're already making a move towards that lifestyle, right? So I think what we need to do as brands, as consumer conscious brands, is come together and create an ecosystem where if there is a consumer who's trying to make a shift, he knows that there are these X number of brands who are offering alternatives and I can go to them. What I've seen is that the space is still very small, the sustainable lifestyle fashion space. And almost all the founders know everybody, every brand knows everybody. And there's a lot of respect for what one person is doing and the other person is doing. So I honestly think the space is going to grow, but it needs us to come together and collaborate because building awareness is a hard task. Cannot be done alone. So we need to do it together as a team. So what's interesting about businesses like Beej and this whole conscious fraternity is, Ritwika, that while we are all for-profit businesses, we all have a greater purpose, We all try to bring together a change. And I want to share something very exciting that Beej is doing. We have actually partnered with a set of conscious brands, homegrown brands, to create what we're calling the Climate Collective. And I want to show you this, This is representative of the world heating up. It's actually going from blue to red.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And we have created a set of products around it, which are based on the climate stripes. And the idea is to get the conversation going. So we're talking to artists, we're talking to musicians, we're talking to galleries, and we're saying, hey, why can't we as a community get together and get this conversation going in India?
You know, Arundhati, when we think of sustainability, we often think of a customer base with a very high purchasing power. Do you think that is a limitation, especially for a country like India?
I think we need to look at that answer in two ways, Ritwika. Firstly, India is a sustainable country by itself. You know, if you look at a large population of India, they already live sustainably. And what is sustainable living? There's a very large definition to sustainable. You know, you could actually make a shift towards a sustainable lifestyle by spending very little. And there are a lot of people who are already doing that. And then there are businesses like Beej. You know, businesses where the products are expensive, and products are expensive because of multiple reasons. You know, you try and source well, you try and ensure everybody across the supply chain is paid well, you try and manufacture in small quantities, you try and reduce waste. Everything adds up to the cost in that sense, right? So products are expensive, that makes the audience smaller. But I think that audience is only going to get bigger.
Right.
And with the right kind of awareness, and also as these brands get scale, their price points will come together. So I think at a point we will reach where we are able to give the right kind of products at the right kind of price. But we are still a little away from that.
You know, picking up from what you just said, I think you're right. To maintain environmental and social integrity, it can be quite complex and challenging. What would your advice be to entrepreneurs, you know, who want to get into this space, especially the lifestyle and fashion sustainable space?
I would say don't try and attack everything at once. Sustainability is too broad a spectrum. I mean, if you use conscious materials, are you sustainable? The answer is yes. But what happens if you're using those same materials but manufacturing at scale and manufacturing under unfair practices? Is that sustainable? The answer is no. If you are able to give employment to people and build livelihoods, is that sustainable? The answer is yes. So I think as entrepreneurs or people stepping into the space, you need to figure out what is that which really appeals to you and which is going to be the crux of your business, and build on that and be true to that. I would also say have shorter supply chains, source locally wherever possible, so that you really are able to maintain the sanctity across the process. Because when you want to say you're a conscious business or a sustainable business, you really have to look at it across the spectrum.
Right.
So your sourcing, your manufacturing, your packaging, how are you treating your employees, all of it.
Great. It was nice chatting with you, Arundhati. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Fall down 7, get up 8. Leadership is not a designation, it's an action. So anybody who has a view is able to state a view and shape a view. In my mind, that person is a leader. 5 a.m. This is us. I love the show. I find it very hard to focus on one thing at a time. I'm always doing 10 things at the same time. Exciting ideas. Always, every time I get bored of work, I think of something very exciting that I'd like to do, and then I all up for it. Branch escape from Airbnb. LinkedIn. A means to an end. It allows you to explore and do more with life. Raising one bratty teenager and 2 dogs.
With that, it's a wrap on this special edition of Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. Hope you enjoyed the conversations. Goodbye.